Bitcoin is hope. And the beauty of Bitcoin is that we're able to create better equities, better securities, better products, better services, better communities, better governments, better protocols, better plans, better strategies, better philosophies, better politics, better everything. The world is full of people that found endless ways to do it. You know, Warren Buffett, you know, one of his secrets is he bought insurance companies, right? And insurance companies had investment portfolios, and then he was able to invest those portfolios in securities. Well, you know, the trick is the operating company can't hold the security, but this insurance company, you know, has like one layer, and they get like a waiver, and they get to invest in securities. So he found a very elegant way to grab a float, but the trick is not getting the float. The trick is being able to invest the float, right? And so what do you get? What if you get control of one of those insurance companies and you reinvest the float in Bitcoin, right? And of course, there's a million compliance and regulatory issues you got to work through. But I can imagine 100 different strategies that you could pursue to sweep cash into Bitcoin, you know, and a lot of product changes to the way you run a product business or definition of a product that would enhance the product. You could, for example, build an insurance policy where, you know, you invest the premiums in Bitcoin and use it to increase the payout on the back end and grab market share. Or you could cut the premiums in half because you're invested in Bitcoin and grab market share that way. And so what you can do is a function of what kind of company you are and what jurisdiction you're in and what kind of entity you're managing. But, you know, again, Buffett showed you that where there's a will, there's a way. And, you know, you have some people that kind of they want to do the simplest thing. They're like, well, I can only do this and this, and so that's what I'll do, even though I'm going to fail. And there are some people that don't want to fail, and so they'll think a little bit more creatively. And, you know, lest we forget, you know, the greatest investor of the 20th century, his success story starts with buying Berkshire Hathaway, which is a failed textile mill. So it starts with a failure. And he just simply decided, even though it's a total abysmal failure, he's going to turn that into a shell company to become a great investor, and he did that. And I think that every single operating company in the public market is in the same situation now. Every private company is in a situation. It comes down to will. Do you have the will? And do you have the courage?
You know, information is moving incredibly rapidly. And we're also seeing the advancement of intelligence, right? And a lot of this conference has been about the advancement of AI and intelligence. How do you see that changing in the next, you know, year or 2 years, with, you know, communication flow increasing incredibly rapidly? Does that, what exactly does that look like?
The William Gibson quote is very apropos at this point. He's quite a brilliant writer, and he said, the future is already with us. It's just not evenly distributed. The future's already here. It's just not evenly distributed. What you have is heterogeneous future shock. Ideas and technologies and protocols are rippling through the global economy everywhere, you know, in every different way, but they're manifesting themselves differently on different organizations, different entities, different individuals. And there's a natural rate at which ideas can propagate, but they propagate through various fluids at different speeds, and they have a viral effect. I mean, think of it as any kind of virus. You know, it infects some people and they shrug it off, and others become super spreaders of it. You know, when I was as an engineer, the metaphor that is very powerful in my mind is a shock wave. And a shock wave forms when you have an airfoil moving faster than the rate at which the air can get out of the way. So the speed with which air molecules communicate to each other has a common term. We call it the speed of sound. But it's really the rate of communication of molecules of the air. When you're slower than the speed of sound, you know, you have subsonic flow. It's very easy. It's pretty efficient. When you actually breach that speed, it's like you look that way and I slug you in the back of the head with a baseball bat. And if you're looking at me and I swing the bat, you duck. So if you're looking at me and I'm communicating fast enough, it's just a trivial joke. But if you're looking away from me, I take your head off. And so that's why you don't travel supersonic. Right? That's why in 50 years, we can't figure out how to create a supersonic passenger jet, because it's so much more obscenely expensive and turbulent to breach the speed of sound. I think you got to think about the idea of ideological shock waves, like this week, a Bitcoin Strategic Reserve bill vetoed by a governor in Arizona, you know. That's an example where it's going too fast and the governor sees no merit in the idea, shuts it down, and then a Bitcoin Strategic Reserve bill signed by a governor of New Hampshire, right? So what you're going to see is all these ideas, you're going to look at them and you're going to say, well, this is a great idea. It's pretty obvious every family, right, should adopt this. And it's going to be like, no, hell no, of course. I'm going to quit my job and tell the next 100,000 people this, right? That's how the idea will spread. And you'll say, well, why doesn't everybody react rationally? Well, you have a heterogeneous market. Everybody has a different attention span. They have a different set of prejudices and biases and a local set of information and political preferences. And the way you know you're succeeding, right? When you know, the central banker of whatever country says, we've decided not to adopt Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset, that means you're succeeding, right? When, you know, in your video, when bankers that run large banks say, I hate it, that means you're succeeding. And the reason you're succeeding is because it's a new idea. It's a shock wave. It's propagating. Everybody's getting asked the question. They don't want to answer the question. They don't want to address the issue any more than the air doesn't want you to go faster than the speed of sound. And what happens when you break the speed of sound? You get a sonic boom, right? It's very loud. And so the screeching is indicative of the ideological velocity and the rate at which it's spreading. I think you're just going to hear lots of screeching. Lots and lots of screeching about all these things, and it would be a mistake to interpret the screeching as negative feedback. You know, when you hear the sonic boom, that means you succeeded as an aeronautical engineer, right? That's a success. And when you get the sonic boom in the capital markets, that also means you're succeeding. That means that everybody in the world is forced to embrace, right, and react to a new idea, and there hadn't been one for 100 years.
3, 4, 5 years ago, you often said Bitcoin adoption is going about as fast as it can go without breaking something. Do you still feel that way? Or is there a chance that Bitcoin treasury companies can pull that future forward? Nation state adoption can pull that future forward?
Well, I still think it's going as fast as it can go, but I think the Bitcoin treasury companies are every Bitcoin treasury company is a motor on the network, right? Torquing the network, right? Like, And so as they get bigger, they're going to get exponentially more powerful. Metaplanet is getting exponentially more powerful. Similar is getting exponentially more powerful. We are getting more powerful, right? So I think that they're part of the dynamic that's going to drive the market. But, you know, my thought is it should be growing 30 to 60% a year for the next decade. And, you know, my long-term forecast is 30%, 29% ARR over about 21 years. So I haven't changed my view on that. And I think that everyone that gets involved, you are a driver, right? Everybody in this room is a driver. Every company that adopts Bitcoin is a driver. Every time a politician advocates for it, they're driving it forward. But you know what? Every single time a politician blocks something or reacts negatively to, they're driving it forward, right? You can't pay for the marketing we just got in Arizona, right? That's going to catalyze millions and millions of people to say, well, what is this thing? Was that the right decision, right? Should we reevaluate this? So I think that everything is good for Bitcoin. I said all good things, they all spring from Bitcoin. Bitcoin is hope. And the beauty of Bitcoin is that we're able to create better equities, better securities, better products, better services, better communities, better governments, better protocols, better plans, better strategies, better philosophies, better politics, better everything, right? It just injects a better spirituality and sense of optimism into the world. And, you know, I think anybody that doesn't understand what I mean when I say that, I would encourage you to block out 100 hours of your life and go down the rabbit hole and try to figure out how this can be beneficial to you, your family, your company, your community, your institution, your country. I gotta say, I'm just incredibly energized by the community, by each one of you. It's an extraordinary privilege to be on this journey with you. Thank you for your support.